Okay.
It's already started streaming. So
Ready? Alright. Hey, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hang on. Can you see me? That'd be good. Not essential, I know. Where am I? Yes, you can see me. Brilliant. Right, take it away, Leon, on the keyboards. Right, hello. Welcome back to Britain's Hidden History. Number 96. Oh, we're getting close to 100. And they said it would never last, eh? They said it would never last. Right, loads of chat going on. Miles behind on the online conversation. Let's say hello. Who was first? Gary to throw balloons. I get a bit of heckling from the cheap seats over here. You're enjoying yourself over there. I'm getting attacked. So Gary Taylor, he's been watching since episode 1. One of our most loyal supporters. And good friend. Oh, watching for the come to my sickbed tonight. Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Thank you for the music there, Leon. Thank you for playing us in. Try and do some music in the middle. I like to do some poems as well. What do people think about having some poems? I don't know, I've got a few ideas for poems just to make it a bit of all-round entertainment culture and balloon fights. Thanks, Zev. That's really useful. Right, how are we doing? Right, okay, we've got loads of people online. Brilliant. Hello, Shari Lids. Hello, Andrew Whelan. Great to see everyone here. I'm so impressed everyone comes back week after week. Now, as you know, I like to have a theme every week. And the main theme this week, I'm going to try and put this politely, without using any naughty words. Awkward people. Difficult people. Particularly when the difficult people are the authorities, if you like. So we're going to look at some cracking examples. Some more information about Madoc, and I got information about this wonderful book from Jim Michael in America about the Madoc and the Welsh connections. And I've also got a letter from Cadw. Ooh, yeah, this letter from Cadw is actually 20 odd years old. You see, the more things change, the more they say the same, which is a bit weird. And you get an idea of the attitude that we're up against. And I'll show a little exchange on Facebook, and then something that some good examples from King Arthur conspiracy. So it's all been happening. So who else we got there? Patricia. Hello, Patricia. I missed last week when they messed with daylight savings again. Yes. Yes, I know Marshall. Good evening. Good evening, Marshall's got a lot to say about that. Not changing to daylight saving or summertime. Does it next week the clocks go ahead? I really don't know. But look out for that, because I think the British clocks go ahead 1 week before the American ones, I think. And some parts don't even go. Yes, it is finally warming up today. Weather improved. It was very nice, but it's been cold at night. Which reminds me, I'm also going to do a little update on... I'll tell you what, let's just get the ball rolling. I'm going to show a little bit of video from, as you know, last Monday. I was spending... there you go. There's me, and hang on, let's make sure this doesn't deafen everyone. It sometimes happens when I put a video on. Look at that stunning view there, and actually you can see Anisdinas, I think, there in the background. Oh, hang on, I might be over there behind me. Let's get my bearings a second. Anyway, let's just run this a second. Oh yeah, just so you know, I was going to see Lawrence the Druid to sleep, to sleep on a hill to dream. Didn't quite work out as planned, but. Yeah, so here we are, right up on Carnegie, looking down. Look at the view behind me, it's absolutely spectacular. You can see Anisdinas there, in the background, right away across the bay, over towards Ireland. Absolutely, well, we're worried about the rain and the terrible weather and how difficult it's going to be. And this absolutely stunning sunset, although it's starting to get pretty cold. So I'll let you know what a night of dreaming on Carnegie happens. Yeah, and you can see there the camping, by the way, Lawrence's idea of camping, you camp amongst these rocks and things, man, it's most uncomfortable. And once the temperature's starting to drop, you have no idea. It actually got to -1, and I only had a flimsy little summer tent and a flimsy summer sleeping bag, so if we get a chance, if you watch, I'll put a bit more at the end. I'm going to put a video together. It was good fun. It wasn't much dreaming though. It was like more of a dreaming of staying alive. So hello Linda, lots of new people on board. Just to give you an idea, if you are new to this, what we Yes, Marcel has been avoiding British summertime for 22 years now. I discovered this last year when Marcel's clocks are not put forward an hour, they're on standard time, because noon is at the middle of the day. Oh, Ferrari 1-2. Arnie's now going to spam our own. Arnie's producing tonight, my son Arnie.
I got this.
He's now. Oh, you can see that there. I don't think you can see Arnie. Oh, it's just a massive lag, is it? There we go. It's Formula 1 season again, so that Sunday's gone. So we're in trouble now. Yeah, it was incredibly beautiful, Linda. You are right. They got some stunning views to show from there. Oh yeah, there we go. Now I'm seeing the Ferrari flag. Just to give you an idea, it's like a minute lag or something. So when I see comments, I will try and respond. It's all out of sync. Yeah, so that was quite exciting. Let's have a look. What else we got? A few other things happened this week. It's been a busy week. And I'm not so prepared this week, I have to confess. I don't know where the week's gone. And I wasn't sure I was going to talk about tonight, because I was going to do completely different topics. So last minute change. Now here's one I'd just like people to have a look at, because this is supposed to be Viking graffiti. It's, oh my goodness, remember the details, Ross, remember the details. Byzantine, what do they call it these days? Istanbul, that's right. And I have to go Byzantine, Constantinople, Istanbul. Isn't it terrible? It's a bit like that with Welsh words, where I know the ones from like the 1600s. And I have to try and work it up to where the modern ones are. This looks a lot like Colburn. I was going to do the work on that before the show, but we'll come back to it. Okay, right. I wanted let's just check what else we got here. Ah, yes. Now, one thing which has really kicked off lots of things. Well, I better put the picture up to remind people. I don't know if you saw the video during the week, which was there's an article around which you might have seen, and it was saying that they found the final resting place of 65 British kings, which was a little bit weird, because when you dug into it, they hadn't actually found any. But hang on a second, let's get the graphic up. Yee, there we go. Wow. Sorry, not being very. I know it always goes wrong, so who am I trying to kid? So look out for these, and I think my face is going to be in the way at the bottom left-hand corner, but they're called bite size. I keep them about 7 minutes or less. All right. So this is one. Have a look at the video. I don't go through the whole thing again because it was just a few days ago. But it is remarkable how much stuff is coming out in the news. We could do something almost every day. Like I say, introduce you to the channel if you're new, or if you've been here before. What this is all about is that there is an authentic British history, and it's not just Britain, it's other countries. And I'll show some examples tonight, where at some point history gets rewritten, and this happens throughout history. Is that right? Yeah. Throughout history, they rewrite history. I would go as far as to say that looking at the history of how history is written is just as interesting, if not more interesting, than the actual history itself. It's definitely one of my favourite parts of this, is who wrote the history, and when did they change it, and why did they change it. It's like with, please don't go into the modern politics and stuff. It's family friendly, so keep it polite and don't get too serious. No naughty words and things. It's Sunday evening. But it's also with, I can dance very carefully in the modern world. When we look at the politics that's going on, let's put it a different way. The messages and images that are portrayed in our media are for a purpose. It's not just kind of reporter finds a story and reports back the story. I think anyone's naive if they think that. There is do you say agenda? It don't sound like a conspiracy theorist. It just is. There's a desire to, in some people's opinions, improve the situation, or you know, whatever motives. Okay, this is where we get to conjecture and things. I mean, it's pretty obvious for anybody, I think, that we live in interesting times from this point of view. You can see history being rewritten in front of us every day. Now, it's not for me to judge what's being... Okay, I can talk about what's being changed. For example, the way our past is shown, whether it be a dramatic programme, or whether it be a supposedly historical programme, or a documentary, or the history books. I've done some reviews, like History Grounded, the new Welsh history textbook for schools. It's not hidden. They're very clear about it. We are going to present history in a different way, and we're going to show different things and change the narrative. This is what historians do. History is the most powerful thing. So, now, most people might think it's for the better, the changes that are taking place, the way our history is presented. Some people think it's worse. We can argue that all day, okay, about, representation of different groups. Simple things like, more women should be represented in the history books, or more social subjects, with crazy children in the background. So you can look at all these kind of things. Now, we're not here to argue about whether that's right or wrong, good or bad. It's what happens. Now, a lot of the people who are very against this rewrite and the change that's going on at the moment don't seem to be realised that this is not the first time it's happened. It's always happened throughout history, any country in the world. And the major one for Britain was round about the 1680s, when there was a coup. And this is when the Bank of England, the financiers, effectively beat the old British kings, the Stuarts. There was a sort of civil war. Not there was a civil war, and it wasn't particularly English, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. And from then on, they appointed basically foreign puppet rulers. So William and Mary, and then we get on to the Hanoverians. And the history had to be rewritten to suit them. So what we're trying to do is very much look at what was the history before it got rewritten. Okay? So that's what this group is all about, what these things are all about. And in particular, the main hot subjects are who were the British, where did they come from, migrations. And you got the whole thing about King Arthur, the British kings. Now on this level here, if you go through the research we've done, and it's mostly mostly from the work of Wilson and Blackett, who spent decades researching this kind of thing. And one of the areas you'll get into is the British kings and where they're buried. And it go back to the original documents of the... Can you hear the noise? I don't think the microphone's picking them up. Full of beans, happy children. It's a lovely sound. It's in the triads, actually, the joy of children playing. It should be one of your great pleasures in life. I lost my track completely now. Yeah. So the two main areas of interest are around Warwickshire. I got the area around there, Oldbury, the old burial site. You can see there where the kings are buried there. And that'd be the area of Arthur I and earlier, right back probably to Arviragus. And I want to say quickly about Arviragus, because if you're aware of him, he was the brother of Cadw. So when we had this battle with the Romans going on in the 1st century, and Cadw got carted off to Rome, famous speech, birth of Christianity, all that kind of stuff, Arviragus became the general in his absence, if you like. Now, when I was camping out with Lawrence on last Monday, which seems a lifetime ago, one of the things he pointed out, a lot of his stuff is based on mysticism and dreams and things like that. I don't think he's got any academic... Well, he's got academic background, but not an academic reference for this point. But he was saying Arviragus is that R again, another reference to Arthur. Another early Arthur. Which I just wanted to throw out there, see if people think maybe we want to discuss that. Hang on, see if I can get back onto the discussion page. How do I do this? Oh, here we go. And Edward Lloyd started the ball rolling. Yes, I can see the comments now. Thank you. Same thing happened in America when they started the Fed. Yes, yeah, Jekyll Island and all that. Yes, I'd like to do another channel. There's so much. This goes on all the time. Right, so March, I was explaining there. William of Orange was the Protestant import. His consort, Mary, and his sister Anne are both Stuarts. They were part of the Stuarts, yes, but I think then it's... anyway, we can go to architecture of power and discuss that. Actually, there should be another topic for another one. It's more recent than we normally do. Excuse me. Right. Now, one of the rewrites that came on board here... the other place where the British kings are is in Glamorgan and Gwent area near here. Where you've got, for example, Caer Caradog, the boat-shaped mound, which is where Craddock is buried. That reminds me of something I didn't mean to mention in tonight's show. I'm going to throw it in. I'm going to do a short video to show this. So a question came up on the Facebook group, Britain's Hidden History. Go along, there's lots of good chat on there. Is the church that's commonly known as St. Peter's Church, which is the one Wilson and Blackett bought, because that one you can trace all the way back to the 1st century. It's about 7 times it's been rebuilt. And going all the way back, is one of the first churches, and it's also where things like Arthur's burial service were being carried out, and various other British kings. And around there, it's surrounded by burial mounds and wind turbines generating electricity. Now, it's one of the things I want to drop in, and I'm stunned that Alan didn't. You can't take people's dreams seriously as historical sources. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Richard, but you have to... hello, Richard. It's right. Local. I agree with you on that. It's not a source, but it is worth thinking about. And who's to know? I mean, there's so many things which I didn't think were possible before, which are. So one of the reasons I want to do these streams on the hills is to see what kind of revelations I get. Unfortunately, the only revelation I got is it's flipping cold upon a hill, and it's -1. And I didn't sleep a wink. So that hasn't worked this time. But we'll come on to that another time. Hey, the burial church is called St. Peter's. We've got here Cor Emrys. Thank you, Taliesin. Can you say a bit more about that? Because we've got the Core of Emrys. But I think Alan Wilson's mentioned this in his writing. And if you're not aware, I spend all my time now editing his books. King Arthur Conspiracy is coming back out, publishing the books. And one thing he points out is he doesn't pick up on it. It's bizarre. Llanbada is assumed that Badr is a corruption of Bedr, as in Peter. Because in Welsh, you get this thing called soft mutation, which makes it sound nicer. Words change. You don't say back in bark, because that sounds a bit weird and difficult to say. Say back in vark, a B becomes an F. Or a V sound, back in vark. Peter can become Vader or Vedder. Llanbad. Hey, Alan Rees, bang on the money. Llanbad. Bad is Welsh for boat. The boat carrying Arthur's body. Yay. Very good. The bicycle was invented consequence of a dream. Yeah, yes, okay, we've got comments about dreams now. I think dreams are worth looking at, okay? I don't know how it works. But I didn't know how dowsing worked either. It just does. I still don't know how it works. I'm very sceptical, but it just works. It just works. So I'm not going to write anything off and give it a try and see what the evidence comes up. Yes, but thank you there. Bang on, Alan Rees. Llanbad. It's the Welsh for boat. So when we have Llanbadr, it's actually Llan is their enclosure, or people think it means church, but it really means enclosure or the enclosure of the church. It's not just the building, it's the area around it. And we've got the Badr is the big boat. And right next to it is the boat-shaped mound called Cadw, which is the burial site of Craddock and various other British kings. And we think we found more around there. And dowsing can help with this. I don't know how it works. It seems to find them, all right? So Wilson and Blackett only go with the written things. But even they, when they were just banging their head against a brick wall, did bring over a psychic archaeologist from America. He came over and they showed him some of the sites. And it was quite remarkable what he did. His name was George. And I'm trying to get the rights to show the videos, because I've got footage of him in action at various sites doing his thing and saying what happened where and all that kind of stuff. I think I should put them up. But please, please, please remember that the history we're talking about generally with Wilson and Blackett's work is written records. That's how they work. Their process is very simple. Take the old historical record, translate it literally, word by word by word by word, okay? Even if it looks like nonsense, don't try and give it context or make it rhyme or anything like that. It might look like garbage. But the weird thing is, when you start reading it back, it starts to make sense. And it's not badly written. There's some archaic words. But generally it's more about syntax and word order. And it's a bit like, say you try to read Chaucer, something like that. Just reading it off the first time just seems really weird. But after a while, you get into it and you can read it. Same with these things. There's a lot of chat about... Marshall says, a psychic went to the Pilgrim's Cross at Nevin. I wonder if that's the same one. I'm trying to remember his surname. The old dreams. Oh, I've got on the dreams thing now, isn't it? I've got to get that video up. Shall I show another little clip from that? Hang on, I'll just show a tiny bit more, I think. Just how beautiful the sunset was. While we're talking about dreams, because there's no voice on this, it's just me showing how spectacular.
We can undo the...
Hang on, I'm sharing this, aren't I? Let's go back. Sorry, I'm not sure if I shared that, did I? Whoa, go back to it. So this is up on Carlingley, if you're not aware of it. It's a big pile of rocks, as you can see, which, from Lawrence's point of view, the rocks represents the earth, the goddess, and you've got the womb of the goddess, the legs, all that kind of stuff, and the most sacred place then is the womb, where life comes into the world, and that's your camp. I don't think there are any more spectacular views anywhere on the planet. It's incredible. Or the Earth. So it's like you say, planet. There you go across. Now this is interesting as well. I'm going to pause a second, because that island is Anithvenas, where, as we said before, it's not so much an island now, because a lot of this estuary is sort of silted up. But this is where... this seems a bit further across that way. Anyway, this is where we are, the western tip of Wales. Very holy area. Look across Ireland in the distance. And the idea is there, this is where Jesus hung out. And Bob Morgan's been doing some research on where we see the name Dewi, which is very interesting. And we're going to try and record that this week. And I'll just give a little flavour about it. Because the idea is that the patron saint is David. David is Welsh for David, not Dewi. Dewi means with God, or the one with God. So what we're trying to trace then, if Christianity... bless you. If Christianity came over to Britain in the 1st century, after the crucifixion, the Holy Family, possibly with Jesus as well, or the son of Jesus, who would be Dewi, where did he go, and where did this take place? And it gets quite fascinating. It's not necessarily where you expect. It wasn't necessarily what we expected. There's these beautiful stones, and there's people like Dawn out there, like to see the stones close up. So this is a kind of, if you think of the Lord of the Rings scene, where they're in that, the circle of stones, and they have to fight the battle with the wraiths, it feels very much like that. There you go, so that little clip there. So I'm going to put some more of that up, including, I might show at the end of the show, or so we're doing the one of me absolutely frozen and barely alive the next morning. I see some more comments. I like to have in the chat. Hey Arnie, I hope you and your family are well. Morgan, hello Morgan, and Rachel, and Andrew, and Linda, the whole family there. Very good to see you. Patricia, her family's surname is David. Okay. Right, your inner mind uses dreams when you're not paying attention to it. Yes, I'm in a strange situation. I never really remember any dreams. So I'm not coming in this as a sort of dreams are everything, I'm going to push it. I don't know, alright? I don't know. And I'm there to be convinced. Okay, so... alright, I've got to show you this. Because, right, I'm going to go to the main... I'm going to try and do more of the news stories during the week. And there's not so many news stories this week. And what I want to get on to now is... I've got a few examples here, including Cadw, American Epigraphical Society, and what they call themselves, the French Prehistoric Society. There's a few of them. So in how difficult it is to get these things across. And we'll cover some of the subjects as well. So we'll learn some history as we go, okay? Right. I'm trying to cut the names off. I just was left one name on, but it's not the person making the comments anyway. Okay. So what was happening was, I was in, I won't show the whole conversation, but there's a group which I recommend. Join it on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, it's called King Arthur, Man and Myth. So you can go and there's quite lively discussion in there. But there's a little mob where every time I go on, they just come in and sort of, jump me with the same sort of comments. So we're discussing a particular subject, which I can't remember, it doesn't really matter for this one. And the usual tactic is just throw these random comments, like slightly abusive comments or whatever, water off a duck's back. And I'll just show that one of these goes, okay? So, it's quite amusing, I think. It's worth watching. Right, so the person here, I've hidden his name. You can go on the group now and look for yourself. But I don't think it's fair to use my channel and stuff. We'll go doxying and all that kind of thing. If you want to go and have a look at the Facebook group and join the conversations. All right, so I was explaining about two King Arthurs, the historical aspects of them, where you can go to see the sites, this kind of thing. And it was just one of these little things people do on social media sometimes, where a couple of people have a conversation, basically just attacking me and laughing. All right, so one of the comments he made was, apparently Carausius, usurper emperor 286 to 293, was also a British king. You can see we've got a whole playlist here about the myth of Roman Britain and how the kings. Now, with Carausius, who's known as Cadw in the Welsh, and there's lots of evidence for him, right? We got the carved stones. We know he was born. You know who his parents were, how he fits on the family tree. Wilson Blackett and all this work, and all the documents, you can find all the stuff about him. But he's saying, ha ha ha, even this guy's supposed to be British. Now, it's important because this is one of those times when there's a usurping of the empire. There's another area you can show Britain was definitely not part of the Roman Empire because they were actually fighting each other. All right, so I've been a little bit tongue-in-cheek. So I say, correct, good to see you paying attention. His name was Cadw, and he has a tombstone in Britain where he's buried. All right, so the inscription to Carausius from near Carlisle isn't his then. It could well be his as well. Right, so Peter Bartram explains how this mistake occurred in the Middle Ages, if I recall. Carausius came from modern Belgium. I was like, oh, that's okay. Let's hear about that. Any idea how they came to conclusion he's from Belgium? And I show his family tree. From the researcher Wilson and Blackett, the son of Mairig ap Marchion, which got Latinized to Macrinus, who was another leader. And the background to this is what seems to have happened is what was British history has been Latinized and they've been changed to make it look like they were Roman, when actually they're British. This is the discussion, okay? Alright, so now I put a link then. You can see the Carausius stone at St. Tigcles Church. There's a stone with his name on it, and that's in Wales, obviously. Okay, and he says, I recall he gives from modern Belgium. So how do you know he came from Belgium? Here's his family tree. There's one in Penmachno, North Wales. There's one in Carlisle. Another stone to him there in Britain. What's the evidence from Belgium? Alright. And here's the details. So dated to the 5th, 6th century, not the same Carausius. Well, the dating of how they date these stones is all over the place. That's pretty much meaningless. Well, totally meaningless. Stone's very hard to date. So the way it's done generally, if you look at people like Collingwood, they look at the style of the writing and the style of the stone. They go, this looks like that stone over there. And we guess that one was 8th century, so this one must be 8th century. It's bonkers. What Wilson and Blackett do, they look at the information on the stone and the names, and then see if they can cross-reference them with the known family trees and genealogies, and then you can work them out. Oh, that was very flash the way that appeared, wasn't it? So I've got myself then. Carausius was described by contemporary... this is him again. So the 12th century mistakes, then you got 20th century pseudo-histories, weaved out of late dubious sources are worthless. But this guy Bartram's not worthless, apparently. He's brilliant. So he's explained why Carausius is not Cadw. Every Roman scholar of note. I love that. Never mind who says it and the scholars. What have you got to say? This is what I want to know. And then he gets some just ad hominem personal abuse. Anyone more than MI5 tried to commit arson. I don't know what that's got to do with it. So forget the conspiracy distractions. Which contemporary writers are you referring to? Let's discuss the evidence. Okay. So the main sources are this guy, Panegyrics, by Max, and you think, this is where, one of the reasons I want to show this, I want to show to people, stay calm and don't panic. Because when you see all these names and scholars mentioned and stuff like that, you start to get intimidated. But I know that whatever the things you want to say, Wilson and Blackett, they don't make mistakes on stuff like this. They just don't. If there was written records showing he's from Belgium, they'd show it. and they'd know it, and they'd explain it, all right? It's, I don't know how they did it, because, I mean, most of their work was done before there was internet access. How they've read everything is phenomenal. But anyway, let's see how this carries on, all right? Goes on a while. So these are the main sources. You can read those yourselves, and there's other sketchy accounts, okay? Sorry, I put in more details here. And then we've got the ramblings. See, this is what annoys me. We've got like these very, what I would call dubious Roman records. And we discussed on some of the programs, a lot of them might have been Renaissance forgeries anyway. There's no extant copies of anything. Things like Tacitus and stuff. The earliest copies known are about 1400s. So that's well over 1,000 years. It's much later than people like Gildas and the British records, if they're authentic at all. Alright, so what we got here. So there's the sketchy accounts. So let's have a go at Geoffrey of Monmouth. Reputedly based on Welsh folklore and the medieval Scottish chronicles. Although writing 1,000 years after the event, the chroniclers add many details not found elsewhere. Well, where else would you find them? Also, Osorius. Anyway, I'll cut to the quote. I said, can you give a quote? I want a quote. So he says, he mentioned this, I've referenced sources, but he didn't give any sources, loads and loads of books, okay? Can you just show me one quote, please? Alright, so fair play. This other guy came in, said, I don't want to show their name, it's Janipath or something. So here we go. We're into some history now, okay? So this is someone called Eutropius wrote this. During this period, Carausius, who though of very mean birth, see this immediately sets alarm bells. People don't become kings from lowly birth. It just doesn't happen. All right, it never happens. This is one of those ways historians use to hide or discredit. So in this case, he has got British parents, but we don't want to mention that. He's part of the British royal family. We're just going to say mean birth. All right. Anyway, doesn't really matter, as you'll find out. So he gained extraordinary reputation by course of active service in war, having received a commission in his post at Bononia to clear the sea which the Franks and Saxons infested along the coast of Belgica and Armorica, and having captured numbers of the barbarians on several occasions, but having never given back the entire booty to the people of the province or sent it to the emperors. And there had been a suspicion in consequence that the barbarians were intentionally allowed by him to congregate them, so that he might seize them and their booty as they passed, and by that means enrich himself, assumed on being sentenced by Maximian to be put to death, the imperial purple, and took on him the government of Britain. All right, just talking there. So all of the bones are there. The British kingdom being usurped, not part of the Roman Empire, if it ever was. But anyway, this is the Roman side of things. And I like the false flag idea that's thrown in there. They allowed them, he allowed the pirates to congregate so he could catch them and keep most of the booty. I quite like that. But the point is here, he has posted his post at Bononia. He received a commission. He's in the army. Yeah, he was posted. At this point, Britain invaded Brittany and Belgium, that area of northern France. Britain invaded it. This is the time when he first started to get the British language going into Europe. And then in the 380s is conquered again. And that's where you get Arthur I comes into it. So in the 280s, they're there and they're imposing British language. This is where you start to see language links. And the reason he's taken the ships and the boats is it's part of the protection of Britain. So what you've done, the empire breaks into two or even three at this point. And the western side of the empire is Britain. Now the best way, for example, the old thing, if you army talk, the best way to take a bridge is from both ends. And the same thing, the best way to defend a coastline is from both sides. Now by quirk of geography, there's loads of harbours and ports all down the British coast, hardly any on the French. So if you just take out the couple of key French ports and you've got the navy both sides, you now control it. And this became the western part of the Roman Empire. If it was Roman Empire, it was separate. Okay? It's a separate thing. Alright, so anyway, so thank you for all this. Fair play to this guy. He's given some interesting references and quotes. But all he says is he was posted to Belgium. It's like, well, yeah, no one's arguing about that. What are you trying to say, though? Is he Belgian? As I said here, however, the quote shows he was posted to Bologna, Belgium, I guess. It does not say he was from there. In fact, the absence of any mention of it being his home implies the opposite. Like, you wouldn't post me to Pontypridd. I'm already in Pontypridd. It would be a home posting. If I said I was for a while working in, a long while, actually working in London, that would be like a posting, because it's away from my home. Right, so are there any other places that talk about his parents or place of birth? And then, like I just said, calling him lowborn is just a classic way of hiding his parentage. I'm going to put a request. Can people stick to the point? Because it was not be rude. Because that was a nice post, very helpful. Alright, so then we got another quote here. It says, Menepes civis Aurelius. Right, so the next one we come on to, you can read all this later if you want to, but there's a lot of Latin. Again, is Prinath or whatever. Really good in Latin, and he translates this. So in this war, Carausius, a citizen. So now he's a citizen. Well, yes, quite right. He was a citizen. He moved there. Was distinguished for his prompt deeds. And that therefore, at the same time, because he was considered knowledgeable of the government, by which office he had executed in his youth as a reward, he was placed in command of a fleet, prepared for warding off the Germans. Actually fighting against Romans mostly, but there you go. Now, this is where I disagree, you see. He says what's meant by a citizen, and he would say there's really no other way to interpret it than he was from that region. That's absolutely not the case. He got citizens of Rome who'd never been to Rome. If he was, as he's already said, he was fighting, he gained, he'd been posted there. Through his conquest, through his service to the city, he would have been awarded citizenship. There's people who live there, not citizens. All right. But this is where it gets... Oh, hang on, I've put his name on there. I shouldn't do that. So let's get this straight. 2 academic books, and then it starts to get quite abusive then. This is the funny thing, right? Oh, here we go. So let's get this straight. 2 academic books, the names of the actual sources aren't enough. Is it your position then that a work that fails to supply adequate references, footnotes, or endnotes without merit? No, it's not. If there's a book anywhere that says, yes, Carausius is from Belgium, then we could explore the book, and then we could look, is it actually a reliable source? Because that's the other thing. These aren't reliable sources anyway, but even though they're unreliable, even if we took them at face value, they don't actually dispute the claims, the physical evidence, like the stones and references, where they're born, parentage, all that's still in Britain. None of that's been changed. Yep, all the sources, thank you very much. Look through those. So being a citizen of somewhere doesn't necessarily mean you were born there. There's no mention of the parents. It could be honorary. Well, basically what I've just said to you. Is there anything that says his parents are Belgian? Oh, so prithee, this is getting ridiculous. All that matters is the quotes that specifically talk about him. Okay. Now, the reason I've done all this, I know it seems a bit of a long ramble. Source says he was a citizen or was posted there. None say he was from Britain. They don't say he's from Belgium either. Hang on, what's it say? And then we get this usual, just throw a load of mud, at a war. Bringing the Ark, bringing Jesus in Wales, bringing Arthur in America, blah, 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 right? And then just some general abuse. So I said, okay, there's no direct reference to Belgium, and I moved on. I've gone, all right? But when it got interesting then, because they carried on just sort of amongst themselves, really, having a go at me. But this is interesting. They misunderstood or deliberately misrepresented what was said. Prithee's question is an interesting one. Why are you doing this? Is it the money? Is it simply financial gain from pushing dodgy pseudo-histories to a gullible public? You can't really believe all this nonsense about King Arthur in America and the Welsh being a lost tribe of Israel. Do you really truly believe Wales and the Ark are buried in Wales? Anyway, shame to waste this opportunity to have a go about the firebomb and have a go at archers. It's just have a go, unload. And you find this a lot, and I just don't bother, being interested in that at that point. Because why would you? But just want to show you how these things work and just stay calm and don't get offended or anything. People having a go. It doesn't bother me at all. But what we do have, art matters. So just saying back to get back to the comments. Too big for his knickers. Marshall, you operate like a true scholar. Thank you. But what we have to do... Hadrian made everyone in the empire a citizen. You did a great job. Thank you. I'm getting lots of... So, what we're doing on here, and this is what I was getting back to, remember before the triangles I was talking about, you've got the subject, and you've got... Someone starts a subject, and it grows and grows and grows outwards, but always stays within that funnel. If evidence is outside, people react very badly and won't deal with it. Now, I'm going to share a letter now. This is one, because I'm going through the old folders and stuff. Wilson and Blackett, give me all this stuff to go through. And I'm not good. It's actually, this letter was originally written to Adrian Gilbert, and it's with Wilson and Blackett copied in, as it were. I don't think I'll name the person from Cadw, although it was 20 odd years ago. It was 1998, alright? I'll say the first name, Angela, okay? And I think people enjoy this letter. Right, okay. I've been through this many times, taking loads of abuse. Yeah, it does get abusive, doesn't it? I just don't go into that at all now. When people have conversations, just try and stick to the point. Where's your evidence? What you're trying to show? Let's discuss the evidence, and I'll show our evidence, and we'll discuss that as well. Even in that conversation there, you've got the physical evidence, the stones and everything are in Britain. There's nothing in Belgium. Anyway. Crozius is just an illustration, alright? Right. Listen to this letter. I got another one, and it's a corker. Dear Mr. Gilbert... Oh my goodness, Arnie, when you saw this letter, did you see the one from the British Museum as well?
This one?
No. Oh, no. I need...
What's this? No, that's a printing thing.
Oh, yeah. One from the British Museum to Alan Wilson as well. It's absolute gem. Yeah, thank you, David. I have to challenge these people. Yeah, they do... What's frustrating is you can't just have a civil conversation about the evidence without all this abuse and throwing in random stuff. It really is water off a duck's back after a while. Right, listen to this. This is Peachy K. Dear Mr. Gilbert, thank you for your letter of 7th of September. This is 1998. So around about the time when the Holy Kingdom was coming out, okay? When this the book that talks about Jesus in Britain and all that kind of thing. Or Christianity starting in Britain, I should say. He doesn't dare go to the Jesus thing. He just leaves that. He's a mainstream, fairly mainstream author. He was quite happy just to show that Christianity began there, and Helen of the Cross, this kind of thing. All these amazing sites that Wales should be promoting as World Heritage Sites, the places all these things started. World's first church, first cathedral, where the cross could be, all these kind of things. Anyway, dear Mr. Gilbert, thank you for your letter of 7th of September. I must apologise for not having replied earlier. Well, that's 2 weeks, that's pretty good. But I have been away on leave, and forgive me for writing on unheaded paper. The opinions expressed here are my own, and not necessarily that of my employers. You like this. Contrary to what you might think, I am very interested in reading the Holy Kingdom, as my primary interest in the archaeological past, with my research hat on, and not my Cadw hat on, is in the uses and understandings of narratives of the past through time. That is not to be dismissive of your work at all, as I also firmly believe that what academic institutions and government agencies such as Cadw produce all express something about the present, rather than the past per se. If you're not aware of it, Cadw is the Welsh equivalent of English heritage, supposedly. Cadw means to keep, but it can also mean to keep sort of secret, if you like. Right, that Cadw appears to focus in the main on castles is the result of a sometimes contradictory relationship between our being charged by the Secretary of State for Wales for the protection, preservation and presentation of sites and monuments in his care. Our actual powers beyond that are quite limited, which is perhaps why our focus may appear limited, and the economic realities of being an executive agency of the Welsh Office, whereby, although we are non-profit making, we are also competing in a market-led heritage industry which in itself is highly political. I try to scan this in. Above all, however, we are not a tourism agency. It's a shame. But underneath the publicised image, most of our work is done on the smaller, mainly Welsh sites in Wales, from megalithic tombs through to chapels and churches. As to your specific points, perhaps we argue at cross purposes here. My intent was not to dismiss or disprove, as I don't believe that anyone can actually do such. Right, this is where we come on to my truth and your truth, rather than discussing the facts. Right, it's modern idea. This is 1998. This is 20 odd years ago. We've seen a lot more of this these days. Right, let's try again. As to your specific points, perhaps we argue at cross purposes here. My intent was not to dismiss or disprove, as I don't believe that one can actually do such a thing in history. Too much has been lost to even begin to think about reconstructing the past. Why bother with history at all? Furthermore, social networks and modes of communication, and even our ideas about what history and truth have shifted so dramatically over the millennia that our very modern obsession with, quotes, facts can be a bit of a red herring. Not interested in facts. It's just bizarre, right? Anyway, so back to the letter. Certainly the Trojan connection with Britain is much earlier than the 16th and 17th centuries. However, it was only with the discovery of the older texts by the newly emerging early modern antiquarians that these ideas became popularised and circulated widely. But they talked about the Trojan connections way back. And while a people called Cimmerians did exist, they were mythologised through the classical texts. We have to acknowledge that the naming and describing of these people were done by an imperial power which would have had its own agenda expressed through the writing of other cultures. As to the Romans, certainly, now this is absolute gold, this is. As the Romans, certainly 19th century British fascination with hordes of Roman troops sweeping across the land has now been recognised to be a romantic image intimately tied in with Britain's own vision of itself as an imperial power. This is 1998. What are we banging on about today? In academic archaeology, there's been a strong move away. Oh, excuse me. This I would love to see, by the way, 24 years ago. In academic archaeology, there has been a strong move away from the Romano-British tradition to see much, if not most, of the material culture from this time has been the result of exposure to different cultures. If I may be permitted to make a modern analogy, even though McDonald's is an American company, most outlets in Britain are constructed and staffed by British people. As an expat Canadian, I can say that there is somehow nothing more typically English than the workings of a McDonald's in England. It's bonkers. And by the way, another person who's not Welsh doing the Welsh history thing, but there you go, that seems to be the norm. Right, so there's a little bit more. Sorry if it's a bit long, but I think it is fascinating and worth listening to, okay? With regard to genetic descent, I was not being facetious, but quite serious. In the context of the lengthy history of humanity, the years separating Genghis Khan and the biblical Mary, the dating for whom is obviously problematic. Which one? Genghis Khan or biblical Mary? I mean, if you're going to go with the Bible, it's pretty much year zero, isn't it? When year zero is, might be another issue. Anyway, and not so significant. Although I clearly have to read your book to understand the full extent of your arguments, current genetic research into identity and race issues has shown that we are all much more closely related genetically than was previously thought. As the British Isles have always been places to which people have come, and as the people of these islands have always been very much involved in seafaring, not that they ever built any boats, it is not surprising that not only have genealogies been important, powerful texts linking nomadic people with their pasts, but also that the mixing of genes makes it very difficult to argue that one person is more directly related to a historical figure than any other. I don't know where that suddenly came from. That's a funny comment. Someone said, yes, in the workings of McDonald's in Bulgaria, some are quintessentially Bulgarian. Good comment, Junction Films. Right, and then finally, and this is finally the last paragraph. With respect to Arthur, you may also remember that at this time the slate was found at Tintagel. The archaeologists regarded its significance with some trepidation, precisely because in our Western tradition, where the written word equals truth, this would be seen as incontrovertible evidence for something which may or may not be so. Writing in a personal capacity, however, I would agree that professional archaeologists and historians should at least acknowledge that Arthur is a very powerful figure in modern British history, and that as professionals, we should address people's interest in this. Not because Arthur makes money, but because we're all involved in writing the past as well as the present. Again, thank you for your letter, and I do very much look forward to reading your book. What an amazing letter. I mean, they put a lot of time and effort into that letter. It's weird. Oh yeah, that was the thing I meant to discuss then, was the comments that, the reason I shared the Facebook discussion was that, why do you do this? I can guarantee you it's not to make money. This loses money. Alright? Maybe it'll suddenly go crazy and we'll have hundreds of thousands of people viewing and we'll sell millions of books. And, I don't see it happening. We usually try to raise enough money to produce the next book. And I'm sure I could definitely do better in a well-paid job somewhere. But it really isn't the point. What was interesting as well is that the other guy, and this is not a racist comment or anything, but the Prinath, his name, I think it was something like Prinath, I look on his Facebook profile, he's an American former Marine with a non-British surname, and you're thinking, why is he so determined to protect this sort of mainstream, what they call consensus narrative? Why is that important to him? Why is it... This is where it comes down, I think, to two different types of people. You've got those who are questioning and looking forward to seeing life as a journey of learning, exploration, and trying to find new information, and expecting to find new information and discoveries, and hope to find things new. There's one of my favourite Muhammad Ali quotes. I apologize if I get this slightly wrong, but he says, anyone who thinks the same at the age of 40 than he did at the age of 20 has wasted 20 years. It's all about learning. And I try to explain to people that in many ways they're trying to defend what they're taught at school and get angry for people like us for coming along and saying, well, actually, some of this might not be correct. There is other evidence that you weren't taught in school. It's interesting. Sorry, a bit of abuse of junk food going on in the comments caught my eye. Thank you, Andrew. Or Art, sorry. So, surely, logically, if you get shown that something you were taught at school was incorrect, shouldn't your anger, if you like, be directed at the people who taught you that? Maybe it's not their fault, the people who taught them, rather than the person pointing it out. Meg is trying to remember the Druid saying, there it is, a Gwir and Erbyn a bead. I don't know if you can just see that, if I got the way of the camera. Truth against the world. And that's one thing with bardism. The one word to describe the whole of bardism is truth. Sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes it's not what you expect, but you've got to go for the truth rather than other religions and philosophies might be described by faith or obedience or lots of different words. But for bardism and that kind of thing, it's all about truth. Well, I think some of the comments now, people quite enjoyed that letter because, hit the like button, thank you, yes, and share this this video. Right, I've got another one. This is a... So I'm not getting on to the main thing. The main thing I'll talk about is this book. It is all tied together, right? I tell you, I did put it up as people suggest on the captions, on the comments, what a better name for this presentation would be. How to deal with blank. What would you call people? From British Museum, all right? Headed paper. This is just class. 1987, this is, right? This is 35 years ago. 87. This is how long this is what we're up against, okay? What's happened here, to explain this letter, and this again ties in with King Arthur Conspiracy book, which is now available, pre-order. Should have put that in description. Thank you for the orders that are coming in. We can now pay for the print run, so Want to take advantage of the discount and everything? Brilliant. All right. Okay. But we've got enough to cover the print runs. I'm not, desperate or chasing or begging. Right. Okay. 14th of October, 1987. Right. To give some background to this, what you'll find in the book, in the first part of the King Arthur conspiracy, is that you can read. And I'm going to hopefully have time to show an example today in the program. Right. A couple of examples. You can read Etruscan. The shapes in that are slightly different. Not actually that much different, really. Some are the other way around, but apart from that, they are the same as the ones in Colburn, the ancient British writing language. So what Wilson Blackett's done is just gone through them and transposed Etruscan into Colburn, from that into Welsh, then you can read it in English. It's genius, okay? It works in Phrygian as well. And it should be one of the great discoveries. This should be a Nobel Prize by itself, okay? But they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And it's not actually read officially. But listen to this answer. This is just... Oh, well, there you are. I'll just read it, unedited, okay? I won't embarrass the person, but the person is a doctor from the Department of Greek and Roman Antiquities. I wonder if they have a British Antiquities department. Anyway. Dear Mr. Wilson, thank you for your letter concerning decipherment of the Etruscan language and for taking the trouble to draw our attention to your research. I should like to point out that the Etruscan script can, underlined, can, in fact be read. The letters are derived from a version of the Greek alphabet. Well, that's what Caesar said about the British language. And actually, we'd argue that the Greek alphabet came from the British. But anyway, stop interrupting myself and read the letter, Ross. Brackets. The letters are derived from a version of the Greek alphabet, close brackets. But the real problem, so we can read it, right? But the real problem is that we do not yet know the meanings of many of the words. They can read it, they don't know what the words mean. I don't know, he just wonders sometimes, like, as Alan Wilson offers how he hasn't cracked up doing this, I don't know, okay? No, the Britain's Never Existed Museum, yeah, right, anyway. I used to say the last time, when you go to the British Museum, the last time you see the word British is on the name badges, but it's BM now, you don't even see it, it's not even it's become the BM, it's not even the British Museum anymore. But there you go. Sorry, anyway, I should read the whole letter. Right, so we just don't know the meanings of the words, right? Or many of the words. I think any of the words would be a better description. This is largely because so very little of the literature has survived. There's tons of it. I mean, we got loads of... Anyway, read the letter, Ross. Very little of the literature has survived, and because the bulk of the inscriptions are memorials recording names, dates, and offices held. So says you. That's because you can't understand what they say. These books... the patronising tone of this now. These, for the most part, we can understand. A number of fairly recently published books will provide you with information on the quantity of knowledge already available on the Etruscan language. To think that Alan Wilson didn't look at these books, you know. These include G&L Bonfante, the Etruscan language and introduction, blah blah blah. One in German, the Ostrische Sprache, 1969. There's just a list of books. And there's one published by Electa in Milan, 1885, which fully illustrates and transliterates. Transliterates. That means they're not reading it at all. It's just trying to transliterate the letters and coming up with gobbledygook. Different. You need the cipher and you need to know the language, okay? So it fully illustrates and transliterates the Zagreb money wrapping and the Perugia kippus. Two things which are translated by Wilson and Blackett. They don't even want to read it. They didn't even look at what Wilson and Blackett had done. No interest. They just tell him, you're stupid. We already know how to do it. We can't read it. We don't know what the words mean. We've already done it. Phrygian material is not dealt with by this department, but by the Department of Western Asiatic Antiquities. So, get stuffed, Wilson. You're not having that. It's Quite remarkable, really, isn't it? Maybe it's not a surprise. And they know that how, yeah. Well, exactly, how do they know any of it, how? The American Foundation history. We've gone to the American history now, because that's the Nigel Orrell's. Oh, thank you, Nigel. Remember, I can see, look, and Laurie, you remember, and Kay, you remember, I can see the Alwens appearing. Thank you very much indeed. Well, they say ignorance is bliss. So, Laurie says, what? They can read the words, but they don't know what the words mean. Exactly. It's worse than that. They think they can read the letters, and they string the letters together, which don't always form words that can even be pronounced. You end up with like T, K, D, H or something, like Tudor. And then they do the classic thing when they get stuck of saying, well, they didn't write out the vowels, so you can basically stick any vowels you like in. And that's how you end up with the madness of Egyptology and how hieroglyphs are said to work but don't. I'm just going to show, just so you have something to look at as well. So my pretty face all the time. Hang on. Thank you again to Marshall for helping me on the proofing. We're almost up to the stage we can print the books. Right, and do an index. Right. So here's chapter 19. Actually, I should show chapter 18 is my favourite chapter. It's brilliant. It's all about I've done a couple of videos this week. You've seen about forts and snakes and that kind of thing. Anyway, this is what happens when a discovery is made, okay? This is what prompted this theme tonight. Excuse me. So what he's saying is, it doesn't matter how well-intentioned or good your work is. Let's zoom in so you can read it as well. Oh, okay. It matters not how intelligent, learned, well-educated, honourable, hard-working, capable and dedicated the non-university employee may be. He or she will always be mislabelled as being amateur. And you saw in that letter from the Cadw, professional. They love it. The fact is that a great many amateurs know far more about the chosen subject to which they are dedicated than almost all university employees, who for some strange reason are regarded as professionals and not as teachers. Most political employees spend their long days most of the year delivering routine and politically acceptable lectures to students, holding tutorials and seminars, and making long, repetitious essays and papers. They have, in fact, very little time available for any genuine research unless they quit work for a year and take a sabbatical period. So here's the rules, Wilson and Blackett's rules. Well, not their rules, but the description of the official rules. I'm trying to get the top of the screen so it's not hidden on my head. Rule 1. Any discovery made by any university employee in any field of expertise, regardless of the expertise professed by that employee, is classified as existing, therefore it exists. Because what we're on to now is one of the favourite subjects. I know people love this. I've got to get it right. Because I got it wrong thing. Hang on. Ooparts, I never got it right. Out-of-place articles. So you find some hard physical evidence but it doesn't fit. It can't be accepted. So point 2. If it fails to conform to currently accepted theory and dogma, the discovery may be discarded and completely ignored. It may not even exist and can be ignored. So any discovery made by someone not working for your university is classified as amateur and therefore does not exist. The physical evidence does not exist. And we got so many times this has happened where it just disappears and slowly gets forgotten. And this is what's happened with the Madoc stories. If you go back 100 years, almost everyone in America knew about the Welsh Indians and the Welsh language, the Welsh Bibles, the fact that there was a migration. The Native Americans, their own historical records talked about the contact, they talked about the white people, the technologies, the fact that we've got smelted goods and the mounds that are built in the British style. All these things were accepted. And at no point, really, has it been addressed. The evidence doesn't get addressed. It just gets ignored for a long enough time. People forget. Because it's not taught in school or college. It just gets forgotten. And then when someone comes along like Wilson and Blackett, or what we're doing, and raises it again, oh, you're mad, you're nonsense. Like, no, this used to be well known. It's just been shoved down the memory hole, as George Orwell called it, isn't it? Right, so excuse me a second, Mr. Blair. Right, so question point 4. A discovery made by an amateur, however, may be legitimised and declared to exist if it supports current university guesswork and theory. They are so provocative, Wilson and Blackett. They are funny. But yeah, you just can't get rid of that, because that's like the punchy style. Point 5. Now this is... I can't imagine this ever happening in our situation. An amateur may have his or her life's work accepted as existing if she finds and agrees to share the credit with a university employee who has played no part in the research and often does not properly understand it. As the vast majority of the human race are not university employees or even school teachers at any level, these rules inhibit and restrict research and discovery. This is how it works, folks. And there's a great example here with this guy, Don Marcellino. And I want to read all this. You can get the book. I will show. He is on... Here he is. On... this is actually mentioned on here. What Wilson Blackett do, because we're out of time, I was getting a bit late. In Great Deal of King Arthur Conspiracy, they show how this guy was persecuted. I mean, really, his life was made miserable. Really, really unpleasant. Cut a long story short, he discovered cave paintings in France, as well as the French-Spain border, I think. I haven't looked at the exact details. Not important for this discussion. And he was just ridiculed for it, because he's an amateur. And the other thing he did, he got some artist, a poor artist, paid him some money to paint what he saw to make an accurate record. And that was called a fake. He was drummed out. Yeah, this organisation called the Prehistory Society. And I love this one expression Alan Wilson puts in the book. He says they had the wonderful advantage of never having been anywhere near the caves or seen any of the evidence. And here it is. I just thought I'd look it up. So he owned the land with the I can't say that quite right. The Altamira as a cave complex. Of course, he went on for hundreds of miles. I was in Spain, so I thought I was in France for some reason. My mistake. It's renowned for prehistoric cave art featuring charcoal drawings, polychrome paintings. I'll just have a little bit more look at that. Wikis are quite useful sometimes. Oh, so there it was, north coast of Spain. There's always amazing art and paintings. And where it didn't fit is because the wrong animals appeared. A lot of animals are being painted. Like that looks like a bison, so why are they painting that? There's animals which are supposed to be extinct and not be alive at the same time as humans were alive. It didn't fit with their agreed timeline. And now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now it's like, oh, he's a hero. But he died before any recognition. And it breaks my heart thinking the same thing's going to happen to Alan Wilson, because he's almost 90. How much longer we have to keep fighting this battle for? Anyway, so you can see there the watered down Wikipedia version. You get the full story in the King Arthur Conspiracy book. The RC's 8-year-old daughter, Maria, noticed that the ceiling was covered with images of bison. Sautuola, having seen similar images engraved on Paleolithic objects displayed at the World Exposition in Paris the year before, rightly assumed that the paintings might also date from the Stone Age. He therefore engaged an archaeologist. Yeah, he engaged the archaeologist. What it doesn't mention is when the archaeologist realised that the work wasn't fitting in with the mainstream narrative, he legged it. It had nothing to do with it, especially when he found out there was an amateur artist. It does actually mention here considerable public complaint. In contrast, this is what happens. The scientific establishment of this day was reluctant to accept the presumed antiquity of the paintings. They thought they faked it somehow. The French specialists, led by their guru, Gabriel de Mortillet, who's a bit of another one of those blank blanks, was particularly adamant in rejecting the hypothesis. And their findings were loudly ridiculed. See? Loudly ridiculed. There it is. As Wilson says, at the 1880 Prehistoric Congress, whatever that is. Due to the extreme artistic quality and the exceptional state of conservation of the paintings, Sautuola was even accused of forgery. And then what they said was he employed this artist to paint these amazing things on the walls rather than to just make a record of it. And it ruined his life. It ruined his life. And sadly, if you go through... you can see all that, good. There's so many things here. Right, if we go back to this, so you can read all about the full story. How Wilson Blackett know all this? I have no idea. I spent all my time looking at what they talk about. It's like, here it is, 1880, progressive prehistorians. It's how do they know about all these things? I mean, they didn't have Wilson and Blackett books to read. How do they find it all? He wasn't allowed to speak. He's frozen out. They're abusive to him. You know, I can slow this down and read it. I think the book could be middle of April. This is a great expression. Look at this. I hope you can see past my face. Finally, the weight of evidence was too much for the abominable no-men. The abominable no-men. And the entrenched opposition to honourable progress finally collapsed. For well over 20 years, and at great harm and cost to others, the academics have protected the most useless and fragile entities on earth, their own reputations. And then there's more examples then of what happened afterwards. And I've gone a bit too long, actually. I've rambled on a bit. You can see lots more examples. This, same with finding the stones. You can see the names. There's so much in this. Thank goodness we broke the King Arthur conspiracy into 2 volumes, because it's going to be about 800 pages. And we're going to add indexes and appendixes. It's too much for one. Now, one of the... actually, go on. No, go on. Let's see this on the screen. Yeah, this is a funny one. Now, Wilson and Blackett nowhere. Right, so we've got all the things then about the crosses and stuff. Actually, no, it's too much to just jump in. There's just some funny comments about the long tradition of Christian fakery, of thousands of saintly bones, countless gallons of duck's blood masquerading as holy blood, and enough timber splinters from the true cross to build the Spanish Armada. That's wonderful. It's got this kind of... and then it's about the stones, how you can read the crosses and all that kind of stuff. Now you get the Jewish names that you find on stones in America. Well, there are a lot of Jewish names being used in Wales, and we go into why that is. Alright, now I really want to talk about this book. I'll do some little videos during the week. I think it'll be even better. It is still available. I'll put an email address on in a moment. The Ancient Kentucky Historical Association, Lee Pennington, is still going with that. And this Jim Michael particularly, and Lee Pennington, both of them. Jim sadly passed away. And I think the proceeds of the books go to his widow. I'm not 100% certain. She's got the same surname, so I think that's correct. Hang on, let me split so I can see what people are saying. So I've offered to also, maybe I'll make them available from the UK as well, because postage is quite expensive. Oh, there we are. Yeah, got a real treat coming, says Marcel. I've just proofread this chapter, The King Arthur Conspiracy, and I can assure everyone they got a real treat coming with a re-edition of the book, Stunning Revelations. Yes, it is amazing. And there's so many other things, like you find out all about those French caves, which are, well, French/Spanish caves, I think on the border, I think. Things like that, which not directly in the subject, but they just seem to know everything. I don't know how they do it. Right, now one of them... Oh no, hang on a second. Right. Right, okay, well, I'm going to have to paraphrase. I've read this book again. I love this book. What I want to say, first of all, is the difference between this book and King Arthur Conspiracy. When you get the Wilson and Blackett books, they go into, they're huge books, into great depth, explain everything, loads of detours and flowery writing and a bit of welly, and there's a bit of political stuff in there, and explains all the conspiracies. It's all in there, and it's a rollicking good read. It's a real roller coaster ride, and you can see how the words are translated, how the letters work, how the codes work. It's in depth. This book is a decent man here, Jim Michael, I have to say. You see his video on the channel. He's like, I think he's in the forces, he's an aircraft engineer, something like that. He always wears a tie, he's always very polite. He's just, I'd love to have met him. And this is a guy, he's an intelligent person. He's not like a sort of Alan Wilson genius type. He's looking at this, and he's genuinely trying to find out what's behind it, what's it all about. And this gets back to that question on Facebook. Why would we bother doing this? So you got some guy from America asking me why I'm interested in finding out what our proper history is. And it's quite difficult to put your finger on it, isn't it, when you think about it, really? Well, why bother at all? And there's all the things about the nation without a past and got no future, and it's our roots. I tend to think it would give people of Britain a bit more pride, perhaps, a bit more identity. In Wales, particularly, it's going to the dogs. People just don't care. It's, it's becoming quite a decadent place in many ways. But why you want to do it, I don't know. Why want to know anything? Why want to know who your parents are? Why would you want to know who your grandparents are? I'd be interested to hear people's comments why we do this, because I didn't reply to the comment. I was interested to find out why. I could have replied why you so determined we don't get to the bottom of it. Does it matter? Does any of this matter? I'd love to get some comments and feedback on that. Anyway, I'm not going to be able to find the page now, am I? Because, anyway, the key... here we go. I think... Anyway, the key to it was, he goes through, there's more examples in here of people having their lives absolutely ruined because they have the misfortune of finding a relic, like a stone with carvings on it. It's just not allowed. So what he's done here, he got an honest person, he's very interested in the 12th century Madoc and migrations. He's doing all these stories about the Welsh language. I don't think he's got any Welsh heritage of his own even, he's just academically he's a curious person, because a lot of this turns up in Kentucky where he lives. So what he did then was he got in touch with Wilson and Blackett. He's heard about them because he wanted to translate these stones, like the Grave Creek tablet and things like that, okay? Which you see all in the book, all translated and how they were translated. And we go back to this guy called Schoolcraft, who was married to a half Ojibwa Indian woman, and he could do the Ojibwa language. And he goes through much from the American side. And what I like about this is you can see a genuine person asking questions, and he shows what's been found. So he doesn't go into the intricacies and why that letter's this letter and that letter's that letter. What he does, you say, well, this is what Wilson and Blackett found this, and this is what this stone here, or Schoolcraft said the following. Here's all about Iolo Morgannwg. Why was he maligned? The problems he has with it. I've read this book a couple of times now. I'm going to read it again. See, the ancient Culbran alphabet was lost to most of the world on both sides of the Atlantic. The real prize goes to Wilson and Blackett for persistently digging into the ancient history of Wales. The alphabet was only one of the key links to find the true two King Arthurs. Blackett and Wilson had been working on this project for at least 20 years prior to my contact. In spite of the attempts to suppress this important ancient alphabet and the language of these ancient people, the truth at last seems to be winning out again. And what I was trying to find, the quote, was that he describes the process there that, using some other subjects as well, which it's not so directly related, about giants and other things which would be interesting, and a whole chapter about Ooparts. Out-of-place articles, which is where something is found that doesn't fit with the narrative. Now, here is one of the quotes I want to get to. Now, what he explains in here is this idea of what they do is just ignore and don't talk about something long enough. It just disappears and becomes myth. Now, he's got a brilliant quote here. This is from someone called Webb, and we're going way back to 1939, and he did the research. He looked into it all, but he's an academic, because the other problem is if professional academics come out and support this, they get hammered as well. But even following all this, so it says here, he summarised his findings cautiously as follows. We have then, I should explain, what Jim's showing is that you don't get legends or myths without some sort of core truth. And he's gone through the facts, present the information. Here's the writing, here's the objects, here's the stories. Can we draw from that? So Webb. We have then a very interesting series of traditions and facts which suggest associations. We have the migration from Wales. The traditional Welsh colonists in the New World and characteristic Welsh stone cist. That's what I should talk about. We also have the American Indians who spoke Welsh. The legendary prehistoric, quotes, white race, close brackets. And the stone graves in Kentucky, containing skeletons of a rather modern type. It is therefore difficult to refrain from drawing conclusions which would tend to support the Welsh theory. Whereby it altogether published in 1928, so it's almost 100 years ago. And again, it just gets ridiculed and pushed out. Oh, there's lots of comments. Good. So what we have there, any artifacts, when an artifact is found out of the context in which it should be found, it's called an Oopart, an out-of-place article. In the past, it would have simply been re-hidden or omitted. This system, which has been called, here we go, this is what I was looking for, forbidden archaeology, has created and I finished with this, by the way, it's getting a bit late here, has created a kind of historical amnesia. If these facts are ignored or hidden, we tend to forget that they are facts. This is the process by which we, as Americans, have had our rich history hidden from us. It is the job of the ancient Kentucky Historical Association to dig out the facts and test them using the latest scientific methods. Yeah, let's get the evidence. Let's not start from the answers. Let's start with the questions. We have testing capabilities today which are not available to our early researchers. We feel that there is a strong possibility that the Ooparts may not be out of place after all. We intend to push on until the mysteries are solved. One of the findings that Professor Webb found was the stone slab grave. This inscription, appearing on his book in 1928, is typical. It's in Allen County. Point 1. Mound containing a well-like vault 10 feet deep and 8 feet in diameter, walled up with stone, and with bottom made of flat stones placed on edge close together, and keyed in with small stones. At every 2 feet in the vault was a layer of large flat stones, and between these were skeletons, examined by R.B. Evans, and described by Bennett Young. Exact location not given, so that's not the most helpful one. There's loads more information in here, but the point was they were wearing, the bodies are wrapped in linen, which is only weaved in, there's no record of Native Americans doing that. I'm going to show you something quickly, just to finish up, because this is interesting piece of evidence. Yeah, it's got, look at this, chunky, spelt double E, chunky stones. Please come up. It doesn't come up. Oh no. They're called chunky stones. How could they not be here? Alright, we'll have to search. What am I in? Oh, by the way, all those Duck Go fans there, which I was as well, is that DuckDuckGo is now censoring its searches as well. Just while I use Google, who cares? There you are, chunky stones. Oh, I spelled the Y this time. Yeah, I just changed it in the book to double E. But these are chunky stone, alright? Looks like this. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And the ones with the hole in. Well, the hole, they're not actually chunky stones. These are the chunky stones. You know, something. Oh. Americans always laugh at me when I say Maryland. I have to say Maryland. Is that right? I can't say it. Maryland. I lived in Boston for a while, which is why I support the Patriots, by the way. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But anyway, so these things, they know what they were, so they call them gaming stones. I say what? Let's see what this one says. It's a complete random, all right? I don't know where we're going. That's what we want to see with the holes in. It's for the hoop and stick game. It's a game of Native American origin. Chunky, with another spelling, K-E-Y now, was played between two opponents. I'm going with double E because that's how Jim Michael spells it. And he's good at that kind of thing. So one rolls a stone disc across the ground, the other throws a spear in an attempt to place the spear as close to the stop stone as possible. I don't know where they got the ideas from, but there you go. That's the official one. It's like a bowl you eat out of to me. Anyway, what it turns out is some of these are found with the writing on them, which can be identified Alright, you can argue if it's Colburn or not. It looks like Colburn. You can read it, but hey, take your pick. But what Alan Wilson spotted when the photographs were sent, because they were sending photographs back and forth, didn't have email in those days, letters going back and forth across the Atlantic, taking weeks and weeks and weeks. And what he noticed was that they're the same as ones found right back in ancient Babylon with similar markings, including the Arwen marking. And what they are, in fact, if anyone knows, on quick go in the comments, what these are used for. Not you, Marshall. You just read the chapter. So what do you do when you get your, to make linen or thread, you get your loose thread, you sort of twist it, you shove it then with a stick through the hole in the middle. These are much smaller than it appears there, they're quite small usually. Shove it through the hole, and then you hang the one end and you can spin it, and the weight of the stone helps you twist to make your yarn and thread, which is a curiously British stroke Babylonian way of doing things. So this kind of links. So these are kind of examples of physical evidence which you can show direct comparisons. And the big argument, if you're not aware of it, is between diffusionism, which is whereby ideas come out and spread, such as Christianity, for example. You would argue that's got to start in one particular place and spread out, as opposed to isolationism, whereas the same things are created and developed in two different places totally independently. So the mantra in America... Oh, Arnie, do you want to get ready for the closing? The mantra for America is that nothing before Columbus. Okay, the NBC. Nothing before Columbus, NBC. That's the rule. Nothing can be before Columbus. So anything has to be Native American. You have to, and if it's exactly the same, and the letters are exactly the same as something that might occur in Europe or Babylon or anywhere else, that's just a loom weights, Hereward the Wake. There you go, loom weights. That's another way of describing them. Yes. Excuse me. What a horrible thing to do on a recording. So there's loads of stuff like that. There's loads more examples. Early donuts. American donuts. Ah, Gary, you are a card. I'm glad to hear that despite being ill, you still got your wits about you. And I hope you're not too seriously bad. I'll have to come around, I'll give you a call tomorrow and have a chat, okay? There's so much in this book. I'm going to do a few videos from it. Oh, shoot. I did promise I would like to let you know where to get the book from. Oh, he's got to warm up. Okay, hang on a second. Oh, okay, so there's the presentation thing. So we want to look for, if you go to Facebook, Ancient Kentucky Historical Association. Yeah, the post is a bit tricky, but it's well worth it. If you go on, I asked Lee to send me this information because the cheapest I could find on Amazon or anything was over £100. I just assumed they weren't available, and I was going to offer to try and reprint them. But they have been reprinted. Marilyn is the person you need to contact, and there's Marilyn's email address. Or just email me and I might do a group order and bring them over or something. But the book is available and is highly recommended. And what I was going to try and say, is that Jim Michael, what he's doing, he takes the work as a decent, honourable person. He's such a decent, honourable person. It oozes out from this. There's no BS in here. He even put some things in where he's followed a train of thought and the evidence has gone against him. He just brings together so many things. And especially as it's from the American point of view. Other stuff which they've tried to solve, which has come up in this. Right, he's disappeared. He's got to warm up now, I think. All right. Doesn't normally bother with that, does he? He normally just plays things. Looks tired. He had a hard game of rugby this morning. Right. And let's okay, let's read some of the comments then. Laurie, there is a stone carving in Nova Scotia. Oh, of an 8-pointed star. Of course, 8-pointed stars is Star of Bethlehem. That's 8 points, isn't it? Which, curiously, as someone pointed out to me the other day, is the same as a Union Jack. I was doing a little stupid video about that. Has it ever realised the Union Jack is an 8-pointed star? It's a curious one, isn't it? And the Pleiades constellation attributed to Micmac natives, might to be Welsh. Yeah, it could well be. Ancient Jim weight. Thank you, Brad. It's the kind of weight I can handle these days. What else we got? Very clever. Darrington Pitts. Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, for spinning. Yeah, very good. Well done, Patricia. Yeah, a few people worked out. You're better than me. Because the other ones they found up on the west coast in California, if you read 1421, I think it's called, Gavin Menzies' book, he talks about Chinese going there as well. That's like 15th century. So, 900 years later, we got these great ones which are used as anchors. Yeah, I think what I'll try and do is if people can send me if they're interested in the book, I'll try and get a bunch of them sent over, and I'll send them out from here and save all that fortunes on post. Or maybe even print a few. I don't know what the situation is. I just want to help and get them out there. Oh yeah, Nigel, I just wanted to say, something my school was called Nigel Laurels. Right, BFF is already debunked with the discovery of Nork. I'm Canada, you lost me there. I'm not sure what BFF is. Right, oh yeah, I was going to say, one of the things, thank you again, because William sent me a load of stuff. I keep meaning to put it on. I've been wearing my New England Patriots hat a lot in the winter, keeps you warm. And the New England Patriots is one to think about, because a few people, Welsh people, saying you shouldn't support them, they're Patriots and all this stuff. And suggesting other teams I should be supporting, okay? Don't mention the rugby. Yeah, thanks, Alan. I hadn't mentioned the rugby, but cheers anyway. And one of the things that struck me, Arnie's working overtime, dollars. People think you get paid overtime for working late, Arnie. Oh, you like that idea? What was I going to say? Sorry, I lost myself a bit then. Yes, but think about the Patriots. Who are they Patriots to as well? I lived in Boston for a while. That's why I support them, okay? It's my local team. And wherever I go, so I like to support the local team. When I lived in the Middle East, I used to go and watch... Oh my goodness, I've forgotten what they're called. The Abu Dhabi team. I was over there setting up exhibitions in the exhibition centre. Very weird watching football matches. Soccer, in Abu Dhabi. And I used to watch Panathinaikos when I was in Greece. I'll watch any old rubbish game. But the most exciting, I think, was going to Windsor Park. I discussed this with Lawrence the Druid. Because he's a fan of... I think it's Linfield. It was Linfield v Glentorian, which is the most amazing derby match you've ever seen. Effigies being burnt, flags being burnt. When I was there during the Troubles as well, there was soldiers with guns walking around in tanks. I'm like, my God, this is quite terrifying. I used to go watch Southampton, which is Arnie's team, the Saints. Yay, Saints. They got thumped today, I'm sorry about that.
Oh.
And I like derbies, Portsmouth against Southampton used to be quite a good go as well. And I used to go watch Millwall games. I never did any fighting at all, okay? And I think all those situations are good evidence of how if you don't want trouble, you should be able to avoid it, whatever the situation. Okay. So, with the Patriots as well, don't forget, they actually, when they say Patriots, they mean they were the ones fighting against the Hanoverians, if you think about it. That wasn't why I chose them, but it's just worth thinking about. Anyway, rambling on long enough. Let's try and get Arnie on picture, which is difficult to do because there's this huge lag. I turn the camera and I have to wait a minute to see if he's on it. I think that should be alright though. Genghis Khan DNA. I'm not so big into DNA. I don't know how that works. Chinese on the west coast. There is the credibility to this mud flood stuff. Yeah, I leave that to Martin very much. Oh, sorry, Arnie, not quite enough. Martin Leaker's channels, FEB, still doing his tour around Britain. I couldn't make it up there to Newcastle as I hoped, unfortunately. I had to postpone my trip to Wilson and Blackheath. That's a whole other story. And I'm gutted I had to miss that. I will pop the video up during the week about the tree me on the hill went. Even Lawrence was... I think we can see you. Come on this way a bit. Come on this way a bit. There you go, that's better. Even Lawrence couldn't get to sleep because he's so frozen. But I have to say about the mud flood thing, it's very compelling, the evidence. There's a lot of stuff. I please don't... I'll just give 2 minutes so people get an idea. If you look... I know I just live in London, I had a house in London, and the front entrance, we went up little steps, like a stoop type thing, to the entrance door, and there's another floor down there, just semi-submerged, and you can see it's in loads and loads of buildings all over the place. Why is the road there and the front door down there? It was a few hundred years ago. Everything got buried. Anyway, that's for a different one. Right, okay, Arnie B. Arnie's going to try and play
A sack llwyddog.
Can I read that?
The laden sack.
The Laden Sack, a sack llwyddog. Got this book. You are Welsh fiddle tunes, alright?
I'm not sure how many are Welsh.
They're all Welsh either. There's people with a fiddle in Wales can play. Alright, so thank you very much all. And more punk rock. Yes, so I did write some songs down. So I hope you can hear that okay there. Thank you very much everyone. It's been a great turnout tonight. The comments have been brilliant. I'd like to have more chance to read the comments and have a chat. And please, if you've got any questions or topics for discussion, please send them through. And we'll stick them up, okay? And have a chat about them. And I'm happy to say I don't know. So if you think it's an obscure subject and I don't know the answer, I will say I don't know the answer. There's lots of clever people out there who will know. No more heroes. Oh, it's a punk rock type. Yeah, I haven't really shown you much punk, have I, Arnie? Very nice. Thank you, Arnie. Do you want to play something else? Or are you just gonna? Okay. I'm just waffling and saying goodnight. I should have gone by now.
I will play it again then.
Oh, you play the same one again? Yeah, why not? Right, so best wishes to everyone. Here comes spring at last. And I will try and get some more videos up during the week about definitely about the sleep on the mountain. That was hilarious. Even Lawrence was cold, man. He actually put trousers on. Well, that's how cold it was. Okay, thank you very much. And join this as well. I'll put the details up. This is the sort of Druids newsletter, which I find very interesting. Very long articles. It's very academic, actually. But I need to try and get more into there. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Shiny. Yes, cheers, Ross. Great content. Thank you very much, Shiny. Thank you, Taliesin. Try and spread the word. Let other people know about it. And we'll see you again next week. And if you have any topics or questions... Very good, yes. No star all, no star. I think Arnie's playing a bit of... Is that the English Navy?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the English Navy song, isn't it? Yeah, it's the... Come on, folks, that's a British Navy song anyway. It's the British Navy song. I can't remember what it's called. Right, it's like... Anyway, right, good night to everyone. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you again for your time, and keep spreading the word and keep going. And... yeah, there's loads of fun stuff to put up. The letters as well. And, Rule Britannia now. I don't know what's coming up next. It's like a random button. We're trying to get a Crwth, by the way. I got someone who makes Crwth, but he's injured. He's injured his arm. He's had a terrible, terrible accident. So if you're out there, Mike, I wish you every recovery. That's the traditional Welsh fiddle guitar type thing. I thought it'd be good fun to play that. But... so if you know any craftsmen out there who can make one, you're in the market, alright? Alright, okay, well I will say goodnight, let the music play for a second, and I wish you all very much the best, and peace until the next time, Cadw. I think you're just too late with your balloons, boys. I've been attacked, good night, Zoe. Uh-oh. PG, push the button, Ross. Push button I pressed. Hey, there we go. Alright, good night to all. I'll take the microphone off now. Right, you boys need to be in bed.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do. What are you still up for? Right, listen to a bit of domestic row now. Up you go, boys. Good night to all. Right, I've left it on. I'll leave the chat on for another 10 minutes or so, okay? So I've charged everyone to say goodnight and exchange emails or just chat. I'm following it with Diolch Ton Teg. Yeah, Diolch David, all the way from Germany. Wonderful to see your face on there. Thank you very much. Good night all.